I know folks are listening thinking, well, okay, well, who's going to pay their bills? You'd be surprised.
Yes.
You'd be surprised if you remain devoted to the movement, what the movement can bring to you.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
Alex asks, and presumably Alex is a UPS Teamster. I know a coworker that's going to cross the picket line. What do I do? I'm no snitch, but I also don't want to be don't want a scab. And when you say I don't want a scab, presumably I don't want to be friends with a scab is what you mean, or I don't want somebody in my facility to be a scab. And so what do you do if you have a coworker that is intending on crossing the picket line? I think that's a very important conversation, and this is the time to have it, because it gets much harder to have these conversations after they have decided to scab.
Right.
But which is not to say that forgiveness for scabbing is impossible. But it is very difficult. One instance of forgiveness for a scab that I found really powerful was from the 1987 paper strike at the Androscoggin International Paper Mill in Maine, where they had Wednesday evening meetings to talk about, to have rallies, to have songs and updates on negotiations, and there was a fellow who had crossed the picket line and who publicly got up there and publicly spoke about, publicly apologized and said that it was. I was scared. It was a moment of weakness, and I'm so sorry that I did this, and I'm never going to cross picket line again. And he's, was crying, and from the testimonials in all the books that I've read about that strike, everybody else was really emotional as well, and they accepted him, and so it was a really kind of a growing moment for this worker, and a powerful moment of solidarity and redemption and forgiveness for the union. But that's obviously not always the way that it works, right? And this is what I said in the chat. I think that really the only thing to do right now, the only thing that you can do is to educate them about the importance of solidarity. And, presumably, this may not be the case, but presumably one of the reasons that your coworker may be interested in scabbing is that maybe he thinks, oh, we've got it so good now. Why would I want more? My coworkers who are willing to strike are just being greedy. And if that's his thinking, if that's his reasoning, then somebody just needs to explain to him that that your predecessors in the Teamsters at UPS did not get what they have now by lying down. They didn't get what they have now by just accepting whatever it was that UPS was willing to give them. They were willing and did go on strike to demand that UPS give them what they're worth and give them more of the value that they create. And that's the only way that you get something like that. I mean, $40 an hour for a package car driver, that is some of the highest pay in the industry. But they didn't get that by lying down. And of course, there are some complicating factors. There is the fact that there is lots of forced overtime, and it's not just all sunshine and roses, even for the people at the top of the progression scale. And it's also important to note that the vast majority of workers at UPS are part-time and do not make anywhere near $40 an hour. Many of them don't even make $20 an hour. And so, but the people who do, they didn't get that. They didn't get that by lying down. And so the only way that you're going to keep what you have, and the only way that you're going to be able to get more, is by being willing to strike. And it's also, scabbing is a betrayal of your community, of your coworkers. It's a terribly, terribly selfish and greedy and treasonous thing to do. You're really literally undercutting the very people that you're going to have to work with after the strike. you are materially contributing to the boss's campaign to destroy the union when you scab.
Hey, 5 seconds. Just wanted to say that this is only possible because of our donors. If you want to see more of this, then consider donating yourself at tvlr.fm/donate.
You are, and there's a lot more we could dive into there. I mean, there's direct economic impact, right? Because when you scab, you undermine the leverage that your coworkers have, right? And so whatever short-term benefits you may gain will not pay off in the long run, right? Because in the long run, you're undermining everyone in your situation, right? And so you're undermining that leverage and power of the workers, and not just workers in general, right? Like the working class, but literally the workers in your industry, in your field of work, like what you do for a living, right? You're undermining that. You're undercutting that. You're lowering the standard that you will be held to in your future, right? Yeah. So even if you're not into the other aspects of solidarity, even if you're not really concerned about the ethical implications, the moral implications, the spiritual implications of this, on a direct material economic impact, scabbing is going to hurt you in the long run, right? So maybe that works with this particular worker. Maybe they need to recognize that there are serious consequences, right? In terms of their reputation, in terms of their ability to get work in the future, in terms of their ability to have relationships with folks in the future. There are real consequences, both formal and informal. And so, you know, that's important to recognize. And
you're leading the race to the bottom.
You are leading the race to the bottom. And something I want to get out there is that it's easy to beat up on these people. And the thing is, obviously, there's a lot of money and time and resources invested in getting people to think that way, in getting people to think of themselves as these atomized individuals who have no, you know, interest in the broader society or their community or what happens to other people. And I think that, I don't know, maybe I'm crazy, but I believe that there's something else out there. I believe that there is a greater good. Call it whatever you want, but there's something out there that binds us all together. And so it's important that you look out for one another. And by betraying your coworkers, you know, you're not only stabbing them in the back, you're ultimately hurting yourself as well. And you're undermining the solidarity of the coworkers in your facility, but more broadly, working people in our country and in our world. And so there are real consequences to that. I know there's a lot of pressure on people to pay their bills and to find a way to hustle and make it work, right? And I get that. And we all are faced with constrained choices in this system. And often the choices that ordinary working people have on the table are not very good choices.
Right.
Often we have varying degrees of bad choices to choose from. But don't make that choice. Don't make that choice. You can do better. And, you know, I know folks are listening thinking, well, okay, well, who's going to pay their bills? You'd be surprised.
Yes.
You'd be surprised if you remain devoted to the movement, what the movement can bring to you.
Yeah. And you know, and it is worth mentioning that the Teamsters do have strike pay. They have strike pay. It's obviously not what you would be getting if you were working, but I think the Teamsters have some of the higher strike pay. I think it's like $400 a week, maybe. You know, if you're a UPS Teamster, ask your local president about that. Ask your business agent about that. But I think it's something like $400 a week. I believe it starts on day one, and so you know, it's not like you're just going to be left out totally high and dry. They will have some disaster health insurance that you can get onto. The local unions often have fundraisers to help particular members that are particularly, you know, financially stressed, you know. And so if that is you out there, if you're listening and you're thinking, I don't know how I can make it through a strike, talk to your union.
And talk
to your coworkers, talk to your local union, say, I am financially incapable of making it through a prolonged strike. I need help. And people will be willing to help you. Something that International President of the United Mine Workers of America, Cecil Roberts, one of his messages to the Scabs in Brookwood was, you know, you may think that, oh, you know, 20 or however much dollars an hour you're making to Scab, that these people are asking for too much. If you're willing to be a $20 crowd, there's a $15 crowd waiting to undercut you. And there's a $10 crowd waiting to undercut them, right? You're leading the race to the bottom if you take the boss's side in a strike. So don't do that.
You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.